If you would have told me 10 years ago that I was going to leave Christianity, I would have looked at you like you were crazy and not entertained anything that you had to say. Why on earth would I leave the one thing that took up my entire identity? My entire life was based on it. There would be absolutely no reason for me to leave something that was the absolute truth that would send me straight to hell. Who in their right mind would do that? If you would have told me back in my high school and college days that I was going to leave Christianity in the future, I would have been terrified. As I doubted and questioned and struggled with my faith and the things that didn't match up, I trusted in the leaders in my church and the God that I had this supposed personal relationship with. I trusted them to help me keep my faith, even when it didn't make sense, even when I had to do mental gymnastics and the things didn't really match up. If you would have told me in elementary school that eventually I would leave the faith one day, I would have had constant flutters and anxiety in my heart because I was so terrified of going to hell and not praying the right words or meaning what I said or remembering what I said or remembering the date that I was saved or which time did I really mean it. I was so anxious about whether or not I was doing things right. So if you would have told me in elementary school I would lose my faith someday, I would not have been okay. I look back and I remember asking the hard questions, and everybody had a bypass for my questions. In my head, in my gut, I knew it didn't make sense. Something wasn't right. But I just had to have faith and I had to trust. And that I did for my entire life up until 2018. But let's back up a little farther. If you would have told me when I was a toddler that this is mythology and some people believe this and some people don't, and everybody's going to be okay, my entire life would have taken a different trajectory. No, I would not have taken a life trajectory where I wanted to do all these bad things and sin and hurt people and kill people and eat babies, and that's ridiculous. But you know what I would have been free from? I would have been free from the anxiety and the CPTSD that began when I was a 2 or 3-year-old, terrified of the thought of an eternity, constantly feeling guilty and sad that I was never enough and could never be enough. And yes, this Jesus died for me, and all I had to do is trust him. But there was no way to absolutely know for sure that I was going to heaven beyond the shadow of a doubt, like they told me. I trusted and I believed and hoped that I was, but there was still doubts. My point is, if you would have taught me how to think critically as a toddler, as an elementary student, as a high school student, to ask questions, to do the research, to see where religion came from, to see where the concept of God came from, to realize that nobody really knows how we got here or why. Nobody, no matter what they tell you, has the answers. And religion was made up by man to answer the questions, to give the answers to life's hardest questions of why do we exist and why are we here. There is no one religion and no one person that has all the answers. And if you would have told that to my younger self as a child, developmentally, I would have taken a whole new trajectory. It would have been so wholesome and so healthy because I wouldn't have lived in anxiety over the fear of the future and this God that I couldn't see, that I imagined communicating back with me all my freaking life up through young adulthood. You would have told me as a young child that I could entertain these concepts of this mythology, take what works for me, leave what doesn't, but I'm always able to change without being threatened with hell. Life could have been so different. Now, I don't sit here and stew in anger about it, but I am passionate about getting the word out about how my story was so that hopefully other people who can relate can find some relief in their story like I have too. If I would have known what I know now as a small child and as a young adult, deconstructing my faith would have been so much easier and a lot less terrifying. No thanks to God, I ended up in this spot where I have a lot of peace now. I have a peace that passes understanding. I have a different definition of God. I see the world so differently. If you're a Christian who is deconstructing your faith and you've got questions and wonder what happened and how you got to where you are, subscribe to my channel and let's figure this out together. Ask me some questions and I can make videos. You don't have to stay in a spot that's scary and intimidating and full of anger forever. As you work through these things, through therapy, through talking with people, through podcasts, through journaling, there is another side where there is a lot of peace and you can get through this. Even though right now it feels like everybody else can get through this, but I can't. It feels so terrible. You can get there, I promise. My depression and anxiety throughout Christianity and into my deconstruction got so dark that I struggled with really, really dark thoughts that landed me in the hospital a couple times. But thank goodness, now that I have worked my way through the thoughts and limiting beliefs that were given to me, handed to me by the religious people in my life, I don't struggle with those thoughts anymore. And you can get there too. If you would have told little 3-year-old me, who was nervous about praying the right words and running home from church every Sunday, going under her high chair, asking Jesus into her heart again, if you would have told her that it's all gonna be okay and don't worry, I would have spent my childhood laughing, running, no worries, like a little kid should, instead of, yes, laughing, running, playing, with a side of heartache, wondering if I was gonna be okay and what eternity was gonna be like for me. For reasons like this, I think it is incredibly dangerous and even abusive to raise your child in church and teach them that that is the one and only right way. That's not okay. You are setting them up for a lot of trauma and PTSD, CPTSD, by putting your children in church and not offering them any other viewpoints. Christian school can be just as destructive, if not more destructive, because I was raised by my church and Christian school as being told that their way of thinking and believing and interpreting the Bible was the only one right way. And in order to go to heaven and for God to be happy with me, I had to follow their rules and do what they said, which they had scripture to match up to every single thing that they said to do. Let your kids be free. Teach them to think critically. Don't suffocate them in church and Christian school. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave me a comment for any content you want me to cover in future videos.